Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dadas Show, coming to you from Best Western Hotel in Upper Hill here in Nairobi. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. Now, the Dadas Show aspires to promote a spirit of sisterhood and solidarity amongst Kenyan women. And we do this by creating an open and safe platform for women to discuss issues pertaining to their health, their lifestyle, their careers, etc. The day is 1st October 2023. The day is also known as the International Day for Older Persons. The theme of this year is resilience of older persons in a changing world. Now, I'm sure you did not know that the population of the older persons in Kenya has been increasing, so much so that elderly constitutes 6% of the total country's population. Now, as according to research, a majority of the elderly constitute of women living in rural areas. This, of course, has been attributed to the rural-urban migration by the youth who are seeking greener pastures. This, of course, leaves the elderly lacking the traditional family structures and social protection. And in many cases, very many of our elderly grandparents, parents, and guardians are going without access to healthcare, access to transport, food, and other basic needs. So on Dadas Show, as we observe the International Day of Older Persons, we want to shine a light on the plight of the elderly and what is being done about it. What are the organizations that are stepping in? What are they going through in their wherever they are, so that we can be able to promote and to fight for the rights of the elderly, our elderly grandparents, parents, and guardians. As always, we welcome you at home to take part in this and any other conversation that we may have by getting in touch with us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach me directly on my social media pages at Ashiko, the host. I look forward to hearing your thoughts, your feedback as we celebrate this very auspicious day. So before we get started meeting our panelists, let's take a look at the following feature.
The International Day of Older Person is marked every year on 1st October to celebrate the lives of our senior citizen while highlighting both the opportunities and the challenges that aging presents. This year's theme is fulfilling the promises of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for older persons across generations. On 14th December 1990, the United Nations General Assembly designated October 1st as the International Day of Older Person. In August, WHO announced that healthy life expectancy in the African region has increased by an average 10 years per person between 2000 and 2019. This increase is greater than any other region of the world during the same period. The Global Age Watch Index report prepared by HelpAge International cited Kenya, just like most African nations, as one of the countries where older people above 60 are largely invisible as relevant data on their well-being or quality of life is non-existent. Growing old means relying on younger family members such as children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews to take over the duties and care for the elders in their own home. But that practice is changing. Countries are urbanizing fast and the younger generation is leaving their villages to work in big cities or to go abroad to pursue professional careers. More children are abandoning the traditional role of caring for the old as they move away from home. This means elderly people in Kenya are increasingly being left to struggle alone with diseases and health problems such as hypertension, diabetes, or cancer in their rural homes. In the past, placing aging parents in nursing homes was seen as a Western practice, but recently, homes for the elderly are becoming more culturally accepted. There are few homes for elderly men and women in Kenya. Most of them are faith or charity-based. The number of older people from 65 years and above tripled from around 260 million in 1980 to 761 million in 2021. This is according to data by United Nations General Assembly. Between 2021 and 2050, the global share of older population is projected to increase from less than 10% to around 17%.
Welcome back. So as mentioned today, we are recognizing, celebrating and acknowledging the International Day of Older Person, which falls today, which is 1st October 2023. So of course, joining me today as we shine a light on the plight of the elderly, as well as look into what is being done, what are ordinary Kenyans like you and me doing to be able to promote the rights, to sustain and promote the rights of the elderly. So my panel today consists of a lady and a gentleman who are working hard to ensure that our grandfathers, our grandmothers, our guardians, our aunties, our parents are well taken care of during this period of when they are in their golden ages. So right next to me is the founder of the Pro-Aging organization of Kenya, Madam Lucy Moria. Karibu sana, Lucy. And next to her, we have Mr. Jeremiah Musila, who is an advocate for the elderly. Of course, we will get an opportunity to interact with them and we will know what part they are playing, of course, in this particular journey. As always, I will not fail to recognize my wonderful audience who take time week in, week out to sit with us as we discuss contentious issues affecting the women of Kenya and, of course, the whole population of the country. So to get the ball rolling, I'll start off with you, Madam Lucy. Yes. We're talking about older, elderly, older. So let's use the term elderly. What is the proper and the constitutional definition of an elderly person?
Thank you, Ashiko, and also for giving us this opportunity to be here to discuss what we love most. By definition of the UN and the Kenya Constitution, an elderly person is anyone who is 60 years and above. Yes.
Yeah. That's good. So there are many. So when people keep on saying, oh, mezeka, you're elderly, I am happy to hear that that has been adequately defined. So the elderly, as we're speaking right now, we're talking about persons who are over the age of 60.
And actually, we don't call them elderly. We say older persons.
We say older persons.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. That's something that I've learned. Yeah. So we will have to replace the word elderly with older persons. Okay, thank you so much, Madam Moria. Now, moving on to you, Mr. Musila, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up doing what you do right now.
Thank you very much, our host. I'm Jeremiah Musila. Let me say I'm a Basenda Mashinani. That is where I'm based for the Pro-Kenya, the elderly. That is... I'm working with Lucy in promoting the needs of the aged. For me to be a bit brief, I am a retired Army officer, the rank of Warrant Officer 2, Class 2, and I just count it as a blessing for me to be here today, so that I may advocate for the causes of the elderly. How I came into this thing, when I retired, I started looking for water because elderly people are affected by water. So in the process of looking for water, I joined Bishop Masika from CIM. And Masika has got this policy of Operation Molly Out. That is, how do you know, Operation Molly Out means eradicating poverty, the handouts.
Yes.
We want to eradicate poverty, these handouts, from whichever organization. So when I joined Masika for this Operation Molly Out, that is how I met Lucy, and I found myself, we are almost in the same cause. Because we want, if you eradicate poverty, then you have touched the real older person, right, Mashinani.
Yes.
Because those people, they are suffering. And you know, if they're told there is anything which is basic to a human being, it is food and water. So if you provide these people with the water, Then, especially in Ukambani, it's very, very hot, dry. So we started looking ways of harvesting water, rainwater. Because if you harvest rainwater, that is the way to go. And our elderly people will have very comfortable life. That is how I came in, and we are doing something down Mashinani there.
So, Lucy, kindly tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up founding this organization and what the belief system was behind the formation of this organization.
Thank you, Ashiko. I know a lot of viewers, they have known Lucy along politics, and I've been to the show before, but in another coffee. A little bit about my background. I'm a trained nurse and a psychologist. I was trained in the US, and I'm a geriatric nurse. That is a nurse that caters for the elderly people. I was able to, I schooled there and worked there for over 15 years in the area of working with the elderly people and seeing how the laws of that country protected the elderly there. And then I came back to Kenya and I joined politics. And one of the reasons that I wanted to be member of parliament is to make sure that we had laws that protect the elderly. So I think my background, having the opportunity to be a nurse and having worked in a country where the elderly laws and they are really taken care of and by the government and the community at large, I had a big picture of what I wanted for Kenyan old folks. So I wanted to be in parliament to make sure that those laws, those policies that would take and protect the social, to protect the elderly will be put in place.
Yes.
So I wanted to do that, and I contested twice to be a member of parliament, Isiolo North constituency. I didn't make it. And the last one was 2022. I did my attempt. I didn't make it. But back in my mind, being a leader is solving problems. You don't just go to parliament for the sake of going. And I said now I had an opportunity to serve my community, the Kenyan community, to serve Kenyans, to make a difference in this country. I don't have to be elected to do that.
Yes.
So, and that is how immediately, I remember even the last show when we were here, when the women went through the election, I told you I have a plan now of what to do next.
Yes.
And that's how I founded the Kenya Pro-Aging Organization, which is a national NGO. We are now in 32 counties, and the main objective of that organization, it is to improve the welfare of the elderly in this country and make sure that they live dignified, respectful lives, and then they age aggressively. That is what I want to do. And now, like I said, we're in 32 counties here.
In 32 counties. Congratulations. So we're talking about the welfare of older persons. What are some of the challenges? Maybe we can start with you, Madam Moria. What are some of the challenges that, what is the plight of the elderly in Kenya?
Like I said, my background, even being in politics and the opportunity to go around the country, even I was also in national politics, so I went around the whole country. I could see what the elderly were going through. We have several challenges, like number one, when people hit 60 years and above, which is the definition of the elderly. Actually, it's from 50.
Yeah.
But the other one was just a written definition. The older persons, they have a lot of illnesses. That is when all kinds of lifestyle diseases crop up. Arthritis, diabetes, hypertension, depression, dementia, that is the degeneration of the brain. That is the time. So when you're a younger person, you may not experience this. So the challenge of illnesses, all kinds of illnesses is there. The other challenge is loneliness.
Yes.
Remember, at this point is when you have raised your children, they have grown, they have come out of the house, they are doing their own things, and this stage is called the empty nest. So you are by yourself. Most of them, and some of them, have lost their spouses. They are by themselves. So loneliness crops. You have left your job, you have retired, you have colleagues at work, the way you are used to them. Maybe you moved now from Nairobi, you went to retire in Kisumu or wherever. You find everything is totally different.
Yeah.
You have built this dream house for yourself. It has upstairs, you can't even climb there. So you end up being by yourself. If you're lucky enough, maybe you have a worker who is with you, and that's a stranger to you. And your children, they have to live. That's why when Ashiko was talking about our traditional structures, they have been disoriented because of the urban movement. We have gone to seek for jobs. We can't be there. We can't even blame these children, but they have also a life to live.
Yes.
So you find the elderly, they are by themselves. They're at home. The other one is abuse. The elderly are facing a lot of abuses, and these abuses, they are physical, they are slapped, they are kicked. Yes, don't be surprised. And they are not even abused by people who are far away from them. They are beaten up by their children, by the caregivers, by even neighbors, and literally relatives. The other one, in the category of abuses, there is also emotional abuse. You might not be beating them, but you can emotionally, literally finish them. Maybe an elder person is like, I want to go to church, you stay home.
And
you
they're
are
not
old.
stopping. Or even like,
Yeah.
let me interject. When you're talking about the emotional abuse, when an elderly person, even restricting them from doing certain things like going to church, if they forget, because of course we're talking about Alzheimer's and dementia, what is your response? How are you treating them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe the family members and the caregivers are not even aware what dementia is. So they think maybe even their parents have become arrogant, or they just want to be naughty, they just want to be big-headed. So they're emotionally. There are those even who tell us, because on the ground we go, maybe you should be able to tell you more.
Yes.
You find they have maybe their daughter-in-laws who are supposed even to be giving them food. You are like, your work is just to eat. So you are given something like someone just retorts to you in a way, even when that food comes, you don't want it. So that is the emotional abuse. There is also sexual abuse. You may not believe it. The elderly are abused left, right, both men and women. Men are sodomized by neighbors, by young people, by people who belong to their family. Incest. The older women are, so you are here by yourself alone. Remember the loneliness part.
Yeah.
You are living by yourself. Even your caregiver, the workers, they can just choose to abuse you, and they have been abused like that. So they are sexually abused. There is also the financial abuse. The financial abuse is like when you come, maybe your father is even receiving the Inua Jamii pesa. So you come and you want to take it. It came through your phone or their phone, and then you deduct the 2,000, you give them even 200, and you just take it. Or you force them to go to the bank. Those who have maybe their savings, you sign and give us, or you force them to sell even their property to give you, and that one is happening. It is not people who are far, it is people in the family, it is the children, it is family members, it is people who are close to them.
Yeah.
There is also...
Thank you so much for that elaborate list of some of the challenges. Mr. Musala, I would like to go to you. And what are the specific, because Madam Warrior has outlined quite a number of them, and I think they cut across, but what are the specific ones that you experience in Machakos?
I remember there was one time my chair lady brought some lights
Yes.
to the elderly. And then we visited one of the homes which have been visiting from time to time.
Yes.
By the name Mbenge, something. I'm new to the area,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to get into and to know what is happening.
Yes.
So when we went there, we found that the mama is a widow, and she's over 80 years. She needs care, and that mama has got another daughter who is around 50 years. And that lady also needs care. So who is going to take care? And the child is, the lady is mentally handicapped.
Oh, no.
And there is the elderly. Now who is to take care? Is it the villagers, or the boys have disappeared? There is nobody. We found about 4 graves. And the mama was telling us, you see now, the person who has been working for me is in the grave now. I have got to look for the food for this daughter of mine and the grandchildren. And so you find when you come across those issues, then you are duty bound to do something.
Yes.
There is that calling, inner calling. There you are, what, as a human being or as a villager, what can you do? And you see now the problem is, all of us want to excuse ourselves.
Yes.
This is not my job, this is not, it is. But if we learn to participate and do something, that little you can do, to somebody who is suffering to your village, your locality, you find at the end of the day, that person will, you'll have brightened his or her life.
Yes.
Now for this mama, she told us, she told me and Lucy, that was our first time to see a light
In her house.
in her house.
Oh, dear.
So my request, or rather my humble request to whoever is concerned, if we can chip in, and there is, at least around you, there is somebody who is suffering, and that person is an elderly person. What are you doing? Can we do something? And maybe even Molas atatuona.
Atatuona na atatusaidia sana. Still on what you're saying, and of course we applaud you for what you're doing. I'll come back to you, Madam Moria. What is the role? What is the responsibility? Because Jeremiah is doing it out of the kindness of his heart. And like he said, very many people are trying to distance themselves and say, that's not my problem. I like to call it not my problem syndrome in Kenya. So what is the role, first of all, of the government, secondly, of society, and third, of the family when it comes to the care of older persons?
First of all, the role of government and family is very well outlined in our constitution. Article 57 says it is the responsibility of the family and the government to take care of the older persons.
Yes.
So, and maybe when the government is trying like giving the Inua Jamii program, that is part of it, but there's nothing really very, very clear about, because even the Inua Jamii is not for the elderly. It is for vulnerable children and all those children, people with disability. So there's nothing specific about the elderly that is outlined even in that constitution.
Yes.
So the constitution says that, and also the family. But the challenge is there are people who are older and they have no even children.
Yes.
So we cannot just tie that to the children must take care of somebody where the children not doing it. And that is now where the community comes in. And the community includes the church, including the mosque, including anyone in the society. Because if we just tie it must be the children. There are people without children.
Yes.
There are people even who have children, but those children themselves live miserably.
Absolutely.
They have no jobs. Some of these parents we have seen in the rural areas when we go there with my ambassadors, you find there are some they tell you that I do not have a shamba because I sold to educate my children. And now these children, they are here. My expectation was when they go through school, they go through university, they get a job, they'll be able to support me. Now here we are homeless. They are back here at home. They have their children and grandchildren, and now they are all piled in that small hut-manned houses. And these things are there, and this is like 80% of the population of the older persons, like you said,
Yes.
they're in the rural.
So we did talk about the community. We talked about the government. The government, you said there are certain programs and certain policies that are being pushed and they want to implement them. Yeah. When we go down to the community, and we talk about like what you mentioned, the churches, you know, what would you rather be, you know, just give us briefly before we go on break, what would you want? And I'll pose the same question to you, Jeremiah. What would you want to see the community do to assist?
And the church being a community in the community, they have a huge responsibility because these are the people who are having one-on-one daily meetings with these elderly.
Yes.
The community and the church, you have the role of social support.
Yes.
They need that. Generally, the church is supposed to be caring and the preaching about the word of God, and the word of Jesus is love. So they should show love to them. It's not that we have seen it also, the churches have neglected that if the minute you become older, no one looks for you if you can't reach the church. Please reach these people. Remember them, not when they are useful, when they are strong.
Yeah. When
they stop coming to church, please come up with the programs. There's only one church in Kenya that I know, it has a program for the older persons, specifically. Most churches you hear, hii ni mkutano ya wamama, ingine ni ya wazee. The church, that is Sitam Church, has a program. They call them the Golden Angels. And that one, it is anyone who is 50 years and above. They make sure they visit them, they bring them together. These are the people who are living in nests, empty nests.
Yeah.
They talk to them because they need a lot of talking.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are looking at what the church should do, the church where it would step in. You know, the social cycle support. You know, what are you doing? What are you stepping in? How are you helping? Before we go on break, Jeremiah, what would you like to see the community around where you live do to step in to help, for instance, the lady that we are talking about, the 80-year-old mama?
Now, what I would like to see most being done to these elderly people, first of all, as I said earlier, if we take up this responsibility on a personal level,
yes,
if we take it on a personal level, then we'll have changed the whole scenario in our villages, in our rural areas, in whatever. Now, the churches, you know, most of them are concerned about the spiritual well-being of our people, watu wanapewa injili. But what about the physical needs? What are we doing about the physical needs of mostly the elderly people? Are we providing, or what are we doing? So if at all we can, if at all a certain kit can be set for the elderly.
Yes.
And this kit, we find a way of how it is going kusimamiwa mzuri by trusted people. Then that kit could be used, you know, to meet the needs. Now, apart from the spiritual life, it can also be used to meet the needs, the physical needs of the elderly.
So we're going to take a small break, and then we will come back with the question and answer session. Don't go far away.
Yaani watu wazee wanafaa washughulikiwe. Lakini sasa lisiwe ni jambo la kawaida kuonyesha ya kwamba jamii lazima mtu ashughulikiwe akiwa mzee. Tunataka tuambie watu wajipange wakati wako very young, waanze kujipanga. Wajue hata kama wanasomesha watoto, hiyo ni deni wanalea, lakini wao wako na maisha yao ya baadaye. Na hii maisha ya after retirement ndio inakuanga tamu, kwa sababu wewe umemaliza kulea, huna majukumu. Kwa hivyo kama ulijipanga, hiyo ni mzuri. Lakini wale ambao hawakujipanga, ni afadhali wasaidiwe, kwa sababu unajua hakuna pahali anaweza pata kazi, hana nguvu ya kufanya kazi. Lakini isiwe ni jambo la kawaida. Kwa sababu niko na miaka 74 na siwezi kujiandikisha nipewe hiyo kitu, kwa sababu nilijipanga kitambo kidogo. Halafu naye serikali wawe na mpango mzuri ya kusaidia, yani ya kupunguza gharama kwa watu wazee.
So for me I think the whole community kila msee wa community ana role yake kuplay, because pia wazae by the time walikuwa wa young, some of them will play role yao poa. So sisi kama youth tuko role ya kuplay, to take care pia of ujikanza kama youth, me take care paro wangu different despite the differences tulikuwa nazo during growing up and that nikianza kama mimi take care of my mzae wangu, itaanzia hapo kwa home setup, unaona. So utapata kuna wale wako taken, kama mseko na familia yake na mtekea, lakini maybe kama una family, so hapo ndio pia the whole community sema kwanza hapo mtaani, hapo ndio so the leaders, the stakeholders, pia the NGOs nafazi come together, pia zi address story ya wazai sana, because una pia organization mob zo angalia story ya children, women, alafu pale kidogo maybe boy child, but wazae hata mara mimi natoka just anything na empower wazae. Hata ni just recently nimesikia story ya gava baba wanataka kuchipini wasaidia wazee, na niko na hata mimi nikafikiria sana, niko na bedhe pia mimi nikizeeka itakuwaje, because always predict kesho, unaona. So hii kitu government inadu at least kutry kusaidia wazae ni kitu poa sana. Utapata at least wataweza kujikimu, wata have to beg for everything, sijiskari nini, ile kiasi watakuwa wanaweza kujisustain.
Welcome back to the second part of Dadas show on this International Day of Older Persons. If you're just joining us, that's the discussion today. We are looking into the plight of the elderly and what ordinary people like you and me and communities and societies can do to be able to ensure that our elderly live dignified and protected life during this golden ages period of their lives. So of course we were joined by our wonderful panel who have already been able to address a few questions, and now we are going to my favorite part of the show, where our audience gets to interact and ask the questions and give comments in regards to today's topic, and of course get the opinion and answers from our panelists. As always, you can reach us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 or on my page Ashiko the host across all platforms. So starting us off, we are joined, actually, speaking of people who are doing something, ordinary mwananchi like you and me, who are playing their part in assisting the community and more so in helping the lives of the elderly in our community. So joining us is Jeremiah. He's in our audience. He'll introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jeremiah.
My name is Jeremiah Onyango, documentary photographer born and raised in Kibra. So what I do is that I tell the everyday life stories of the residents of Kibra in a humane way, getting off the stereotypes that have always been shadowed in that place, no West or no West. So as we celebrate the Day of the Elderly Citizens in Kenya, I think it's not okay if we leave young people out of this conversation. Mm-hmm. When we talk about elderly, the senior citizens in Kenya being neglected, most of these things are from the young people.
Yes.
The neglection, the isolation come from the family members, and then it's younger people who do so. Mm. So what I can urge younger people in this quest to make sure that elderly people live their best life, because what we do as young people is only envision how our older years will be, probably yes. thinking that it's it's flowers all through. But when you get to talk to the elder people, then you understand the real life situation. And that has happened to me ever since I started volunteering at Kibra Daycare for the elderly. So the main thing that I'll urge our panelists and any other person being involved with the elderly is to foster for what we call intergenerational solidarity. As much as you want to fight for these people to get money, to get whatever they get, please bring young people on board, because we have the energy to care for them. We have the energy to see what they do, and we have double the energy to do what they cannot do. So it will be so wise for us to, good for Ashiko to have me here as a young person, but then for Lucy, for Madam Lucy, Mr. Jeremiah, kindly incorporate more young people in what you do. Let us know that these elder people lives matter, not only our parents' life matter, not only our grandma's life matter, but the level of concern should be for the next person that is beside me. Who are these people that we seek guidance from? They are the elder people. So kindly let us involve more young people, and older is not over.
Oh, wow. I like that. Let's give him a round of applause. Because that's a new angle, and that's the beauty about intergenerational cooperation, because we get to hear new ideas and new standpoints, and I feel like that's a call to action for Madam Moria. Let us start incorporating, because we have it's good to have Ambassador Jeremiah. He can be able to resonate on a personal level with the elderly, but it's also important to bring in the younger generation so that they can be able to see, and so that they can be able to resonate and be at one and empathize, so that even when they're not under this particular umbrella, when they're at home in their villages, they will step in where need be. So asante sana Jeremiah, and kudos on the work that you're doing, taking pictures and images of the day-to-day lives of the residents of Kibera, including the elderly people, and your work at the what did you call it, the home? The daycare for the elderly. Asante sana. So our next question and comment is going to come from a friend of Dadas show, and we're so happy to have her back after her long hiatus. But karibu sana Sue, and the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Ashiko. Happy to be back once again. I'm Sue Musandu. By profession, I'm a parenting teens expert, and I have a support group for parents of teenagers. Now, there's a trend which I've noticed that is happening. You may find that there are parents who have their children, and the children are taking care of them and know where they are. But sometimes we unconsciously burden our parents with our children. You find you have a son or a daughter who is maybe struggling with drug addiction or mental health issues.
Yes.
And because maybe I feel I'm not able to take care of him in Nairobi or Kisumu where I am, I push that issue to my parents. Maybe the child has disciplinary issues, and I know my father was strict, so I'm going to take this young man so that dad can work on him. We are forgetting our parents are now elderly and tired. So you take a young man here who is going to go to the village and harass the grandparents or disappear and give them unnecessary worry and concerns, and therefore affect their lives. So we need to be careful, and we need to remember that we can take our grandchildren, but let's not just pick the children who have issues to take them to go and live in the village. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent observation, by the way, Sue. And I think that is where we were talking about. This has to be responsibility for every single member of society. You cannot assume just because your grandparents are okay, they're in good health, that this is where you're going to go and deposit your children, and maybe the unruly ones for that matter. So they did their part. Now you do yours. Asante sana, Sue. And we have a question from Jerry. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us on Dadas Show. Please, let's have your question.
Thank you. Lucy Moria, it's very nice to meet you. You really look like a caregiver. I have a question about the people we are discussing today, the aged.
Yeah.
What is the role of a caregiver? And maybe not just the work, what emotions are involved in looking after the elderly?
Thank you so much for the good question. And a caregiver is someone who is usually confused with housekeeper, is confused with someone like your housemaid. A housemaid is not a caregiver. A caregiver, it is someone who has the traits like you were saying. A caregiver can even be a child of the person you are taking care of. It can be someone who really would care, and caregivers are usually trained to identify most of the things. And some of the problems that we are going through now is because people assume just because you have a house girl, that one can be a caregiver.
Yes,
A caregiver, it is someone who has some basics knowledge of maybe nutrition, identifying like when people have dementia, and when someone maybe how to take even medication,
Yes.
even how to put like the injections for all these basic things. So as caregiver, it is someone even who has interest. It's not just somebody. Taking care of an older person is like taking care of a child. You can't just leave your child with just anyone. So a caregiver should be someone with the knowledge, and that is why we are advocating to have trained caregivers. And one of the things we are asking our government to do is to have caregivers trained and even maybe given some allowance. Maybe if it's a member of a family, if you have sat down as a family, na mumeona one of you should be the caregiver to our mother or our father. Remember that person has left everything else just to take care of them, to
Yes.
bathe them, to feed them, to dress them, to make sure if they have Alzheimer's or they have dementia, they make sure they know their whereabouts.
Yeah.
So it's someone, it should be someone who has a heart for that and is trained.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Ashiko. So my question is directed to Mr. Jeremiah, and I would like to ask, what is the role of a father in our society that can help the families to mitigate this issue of eventually letting go and not having empathy for our parents, because it starts from the family level. So what can we do as fathers? What can they do in the family to mitigate that issue so that we can have more men, more fathers involved in their in their homes, so that eventually they are not abandoned by
Yes.
their children.
Yeah.
Yes, and also the role of the church as well for the father figure.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your good question. Now, the problem with us men, and especially the African man, the way we have been brought up, it's affecting even our old age.
Yes.
So right now, if we can start, they said knowledge is power.
Yes.
If we can start imparting this kind of knowledge to our small boys, to young men, they will grow up knowing, taking the responsibility of being the head and not being the African man. Because being the African man, that is second to an animal. Somebody who is just staying in the bush. But when you bring fathers in a fatherly manner,
Yes.
and we train our boys to be responsible, that foundation is lacking. And it's only us who have got that knowledge. We go back again to the family and start imparting that knowledge to our small boys. Let us do this. Let us take care of this. Let us take care of this. Let us take care of this. I think there is this verse from the Bible which says, sijui bwana na bibi watajitenga, watakuwa sijui
Watakuwa
somewhere,
kitu kimoja.
wataenda mbali. Many people have misunderstood that Bible verse.
Yes.
It is not. It does not teach us to neglect our families, and you find ladies, because of that humanity,
Yeah.
they will always remember their parents,
parents.
and mostly where they came from. But with the men, when they just
Kama ameenda.
Kama ameenda basi imeisha namna hiyo. So I think education.
Yes.
Let us educate our men. Let us put on seminars, fatherly seminars, and you'll find slowly by slowly this scenario will change. And you'll find now the fathers will take the lead in taking care of the elderly.
Oh, wow, that's excellent. We need to give him a round of applause. That's excellent. It hit me straight to the core. And of course, this is advocating for the men out there, because remember, it starts from you. You're the head of the family. It starts from you. If you set a precedent to your children that they do not go to Ushago, and they do not go to see their grandparents, because wherever the grandparents lives, there's no internet or there's no running water, then remember, you too are getting there. They will also find a reason not to come and see you. So remember the world, what goes around comes around. Let us start instilling responsibility, empathy, compassion for members of our family, even though they are older and as far as we are concerned, they've lost their usefulness. So let's have the next question or comment from Elizabeth.
Thank you, Ashiko, for the opportunity, and thank you for this conversation. It's a needed conversation, because a lot of people, like as Madam Moria has been saying, a lot of people have been having dementia, and a lot of people don't understand what to do with them. My name is Elizabeth Mtunga. I'm from the Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization, Kenya. And why I started the organization was because my dad got dementia when I was 17 years. And as a teenager, I am trying to live my life, and my father is here showing very different changes that I do not understand. And it took a while to actually understand what it was, and it took us 15 years to get diagnosis. So for me, why I advocate is to make sure that families understand what they are dealing with. You will not take 15 years like I did to have help for your loved one. So why we do this is to help caregivers understand how to better care for their loved ones, treat them well with dignity, because as we have said here, these are older people now, but even us, we are heading there. So let's not forget how we treat them. We shall all be treated the same way. So for me, I want to make a change, and a positive one. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, I think this is a topic that will segue to a conversation, a much bigger conversation that we do want to have, especially here on Dadas Show. When we're talking about, Alzheimer's, and we're talking about dementia, there are specific illnesses that require special attention. And it's unfortunate, like for you, it took 15 years for it to be discovered. So how many people are out there, and how many more can be able to get assistance? So we're definitely looking forward to having that conversation on dementia and Alzheimer's. And we look forward to interacting with caregivers. We look forward to even interacting with you who is at home, who is taking care of a parent or a guardian or a grandparent who is experiencing this. So asante sana, Elizabeth, for what you do. And we will definitely see you very soon on this other side of the panel. So we have our final question of this wonderful and insightful session. And our question is from a gentleman at the back. He's going to introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Madam Ashiko. My name is Elfas Mzito, and my question goes directly to the panelists there. What are these good laws that government can implement in order to care for these elderly in the society? And is there any government institution that can regulate these elderly in the society? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Muzito, for your question. It's a very good question. And actually, if you knew, this is what we are pushing right now, to have laws. There are no specific laws for the elderly in this country. Those who are working with us in the field, they know that. We just have the Constitution, which says the family and the government should take care of the elderly. Even the care is not defined. It's not even elaborated. And also the Bill of Rights, that everyone has rights. So we are just working on those guidelines.
Very generalized
things.
Yes.
So like even when I said about the Inua money, it is not specifically for the elderly. There's nothing for them. In our parliament, we have had a bill of senior citizens bill, which has been there maybe for the longest time. and nobody has paid attention to it, and that's what we are advocating. That bill has mambo ya pensions, it has about the elderly, like to NHIF for them, it has their nutrition, it has all the cares, even caregiving is there, it's incorporated. It also protects the caregivers. It will be protecting also the patients themselves. We had a case the other day in Logoto, and it is allegations, but it's under investigations. But those cases happen because there are no laws. There's even no law to protect that caregiver. So anything can even be against her, and nothing to protect. There's nothing even to protect even a doctor who treats those patients. There's even no law within about the elder that protects even the elderly themselves in those homes.
Yes.
Now that we have mentioned even the home. So we are pushing for a senior citizens bill. And what I would request all the viewers and all the people who are here, all of you, you have a member of parliament in your areas. Push them. Tell them, your member of parliament, they went there, if they cannot remember the older persons who voted for them.
Yes.
It is very unfortunate, because we've never had anyone raising a bill or a motion or an act in parliament, anything about the older persons in this country. They are passing bills every day. They are passing things which are not very important to them, but to us or to the older persons. But the older persons, we need to hear them talking about them, coming with a bill, and the bill actually is there. We need them to wapiga vumbi hiyo bill of senior citizen ipitishwe, ikuwe implemented. That is the only way we can be able to protect, because you've seen Mutata going to court. He goes to court because there is a law which has been broken. Today, if the Inua Jamii money comes late, you can't take anyone anywhere.
There is no one there.
There's no one to hold accountable. So there's nothing specifically for the older persons to hold anyone accountable in this country.
Which is very unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
So now, what about the organizations? Are there organizations that have been set to protect? Like, for instance, you have yours. What are the organizations that have been set aside for the elderly?
So they not set aside. People have come up with organizations like me themselves, and we of course have a lot of challenges to push that. Like I told you, I realized that I didn't have to be elected to go to parliament to do that. I can push from outside, and that's why I'm pushing for that law. And that's why we are pushing the training of caregivers, so that we don't have to blame the caregivers they didn't do this, because they don't know, they're ignorant. So we want that put in place. And how are we doing this? We are pushing this by educating the people. We are pushing this. We do a lot of workshops. We even have YouTube channels to train. We do all those about the young people. Our young guy from Kibra talked about the inclusivity of the youth. Yes, we have them. We even have a program on bridging the gap between the elderly. We have interviews on that on our Lusomoria network. So if you have a chance, you can check what we are doing with the young people and the elderly. We discuss all these dementias there, she knows. And so if you want to study more, to hear more, to get more information of all these challenges that we have mentioned here, please check out on that network, and you're going to read a lot, and we'll continue informing, educating, and inspiring people on this. Until we remove the stigma, because people actually don't understand. Yes.
So I think that's a lot of information. That's information, and I think I will echo what Madam Moria has said in regards to question. But take to task your member of parliament, your women representative. It's very easy for us to sit here and point fingers, but what are we doing? So as we celebrate the International Day of Older Persons, look around you. Are you doing your part? Are you ensuring that your neighbor, your grandfather, your grandmother, your parent, your guardian, even your neighbor, there's yule mzee yuko huko kwa kijiji, Do you interact with them? You do not have to be in a position to give them money. You do not have to be in a position to house them. But do you even spend 2 minutes to talk to them? Remember, kuishi kwingi ni kuona mengi. So on behalf of my wonderful team at KBC, and of course my location partners, Best Western Upper Hill, and myself, Ashiko Mbune, I thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you same time, same place next week. Have a lovely week ahead. Bye-bye.